I was 10, and I was in a canoe. And I was paddling that canoe, just struggling as hard as I could in a river called traditional education. Now me, it was the last day of 4th grade, so I was pretty excited for the summer. But I was trying to hear what my mom had to say to the teacher. And she was saying, my son over here, his little brother is in 1st grade and can read every book in the house. But he can't read any books in the house. He just looks at the pictures. Now, I'm not sure that my 4th grade teacher said what my mom wanted, because the next thing I know, I was in my canoe going to a new school. I got to the new school, and the teacher said, you know, we tested him, and he reads on the level of a 1st grader. So we really need him to repeat 4th grade so he has time to catch up with all the other children. And I said, Mom, look, I made it through 4th grade. I just did it looking at the pictures. She said, all right. So the teachers came over, and they said, we're going to put this bright orange sticker all the way down the handle of your paddle, right? It says Special Education Class. And that way, when you paddle through that new school, everybody knows exactly where you're going. So I did that, and I got all the way up to 7th grade, and my 7th grade science teacher pulled me aside and said, John, look, you actually know the material, you just do poorly on the test. So he put me in a separate room and gave me no time limit, had me take the test, and I made an A. Whew. So I came out, nobody else was in the room, and he graded it, and I thought, this is fantastic, but nothing changed. I just kept paddling with my orange sticker. And I got up to 10th grade, and my friends came over, and they said, John, look, you can't be in special education class the rest of your life. They don't have that in college. So they came and they peeled that 6, 7-year-old sticker, just peeled it off my paddle and threw it away. And I was like paddling along with no orange sticker. I got my report card, had straight A's. Everybody was patting me on the back. But then this one girl in my class, blonde, tall girl, comes over and she says, John, look, it doesn't mean anything to make straight A's in the regular general classes. And I said, well, I asked my parents, I asked the teachers, and they said, John, no, you don't read fast enough to keep up with the children in those classes. So I kept paddling. I saw this beautiful white rock, everybody gliding by the rock. I got up to the white rock, and boom, it just hit the bottom of my canoe. I had a big hole in my canoe, water's rushing down. I looked down, it said SAT. I looked at my parents, and they said SAT. And they said, they had tears in their eyes, and they said, look, you did so poorly. We talked to your teachers, and we are just not sure that college is going to be for you. And I said, I'm going anyway. So I put my foot over that hole, and I paddled myself right into North Carolina State University, and I got myself in the pre-med track. And my mom was getting phone calls from all the other people along the bank. They were saying, wow, your son? He's in the newspaper. He's at a major university in the newspaper because he's on the dean's list. And then all of a sudden, it was amazing. All these other canoes, the pre-med canoes, they were coming to my canoe. And they wanted me to tutor them in histology and tutor them in biochemistry. And they wanted to borrow my note cards that took me 10 hours to make. But I said, I know what it's like to struggle. So I will help you, and I will help you, and you. I'll help everybody. Then my pre-med advisor said, John, you've got to take the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. It's 3 sections. Each section's 15 points. And you've got to get at least an 8 on each of those 3 sections to be above national average. And you've got to do way better than that to really get into med school. So I paddled up to those 15-foot rocks, and I glided by the first 2 science sections with no problem whatsoever. But I got to the 3rd section, the verbal reading section, and the rock was jagged, and I couldn't read any of the writing on the rock. It didn't make any sense, so I just fell back in my canoe. And my pre-med advisor, she said, What do you mean you made a 1 on the verbal reading section of the MCAT? You get a 1 if you just write your name on the paper. See, I've never seen this before. She said, this is like you getting a 0 in reading. I said, well, what do I do? And she said, well, you clearly know how to read. You just go take it again. You probably bubbled it in wrong. So I went back up to that rock, and I got around the little mossy edges there to a 2, and I slipped back into my canoe and broke my paddle right in half. And I was just drifting in that canoe, just looking at the beautiful blue sky with a broken paddle. And I pulled myself all the way up to the edge of that canoe, and I looked over the edge, and there they were. All those pre-med canoes that I've been helping, they were gliding into the horizon to their medical schools. I thought, this isn't working for me. So I reached down, I picked that paddle back together, and I duct taped that paddle, and then I paddled for 3 hours to an island. There was a short lady that lived there. She was a reading specialist. And I said, ma'am, can you teach me to read faster? She said, yes, but it will take intense work for at least a year. I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm good at intense work, so let's do it. So we did that. She jumped in my canoe a year later, and we paddled back up to that verbal reading 15-foot rock. And I climbed my way around those words and jagged edges in the moss, and I got all the way to the 6. I was dangling from the jagged edge of a 6 like this. And I said, I got to a 6. I can't go any higher. Is this going to work? She said, John, you are going to have to accept that being a doctor is not for you. I said, that ain't going to work for me. So I took my canoe, I put it on my shoulder, bumping her into the river. I climbed over that rock. I dropped it down the other side. I jumped in the canoe, and I paddled right toward the medical schools. And I went up to this private, prestigious university called Duke. I said, may I have an interview? No. And I paddled over to University of North Carolina. I said, may I have an interview? No. I paddled over to Brody School of Medicine in Eastern North Carolina. I said, look, I worked for a year with that lady on the island. Can you just interview me? They said, oh, you're the most determined person we've seen in a while, so we'll interview you. So I paddled into that interview. This man with gray hair and a long white coat, he says, John, you're going to have to answer one thing for me. You're going to have to explain why that short lady that you bumped out of your canoe on the other side of the rocks over there, why did she write us a letter saying that you don't read fast enough to be a medical student? I said, I don't know why that nice lady was trying to capsize my canoe, but let me explain something to you, sir. It's not that I can't read. I know how to read. It's just that I read slower. So I will study 10, 12 hours a day, which is twice the average medical student, if that's what it takes for me to make it. He goes, well, you're in. So I paddled into medical school. I got in there, and I got some beautiful stickers. A green sticker that said top score in histology, an orange sticker that said top score in gross anatomy. And then I got this beautiful blue sticker. And it said 99 on your biochemistry final. And all of a sudden, my biochemistry professor was paddling up to me with his canoe, and he tied up to my canoe, and he said, John, I think you cheated on my exam. I said, well, sir, I did not cheat on your exam. I took 4 poster boards, and I taped them all together